from the mean streets of South Lyon, Michigan. This is the Off Center Sports Card Show. We'll talk all cards, modern and vintage, graded and ungraded, and stories of the hobby. Sit back, grab a cold one, and let's join George Jackson and Coach Pat. Welcome to the OC.
What is up?
The OC, baby. The debut.
We are here. This is great. What do you think it is, Pat?
Yeah.
Nice little setup here.
Like Mike and Mike. Hey, we're just glad to see you standing after Sunday night, buddy.
Oh,
legendary.
Spartan strong.
Spartans will.
Go.
15 fireballs.
Don't do that ever, kids.
Man's game, ladies and gentlemen. Man's game.
Well, here we are. First, like we said, the first one. And episode 1 of the OC, baby.
OC, this is exciting. It all started, having a guest appearance on the Speak Easy podcast with Rich Jasper and Tom Sloan, and we owe those guys a huge thank you. They've helped us out a ton. They're here tonight as our producers, helping us to get this things rolling. So Tom and Rich, thank you. Give those guys a listen. If you guys are looking for an entertaining podcast, but
definitely.
Hey, this is exciting. Two guys that have you've been in the industry longer than I have, and I think we have a lot to share with the audience, and I think we have a great audience that can share a lot with us. So we're looking to bring guests on and do all kinds of good things. It's such a great hobby and so much to discuss.
Awesome. Couldn't say it better myself. And why don't we start there, Pat, off how'd you get into hobby? That's kind of where we'll start off with our listeners and have them get a feel of us and what we're in this for and how we started.
Absolutely. So, gosh, much like, most people, I'm a sports nut, been playing sports, following it since I was a little kid. Went to card shows with my dad growing up. Would ride my bike to the local card shops with my buddies, back in the days when people still traded cards.
Yeah, exactly.
And do that and going to the shows and you amass a collection over the years and then it goes and gets stored in a storage tote. And I do remember the stories of my dad saying, hey, don't do what my mom did and throw out all my cards. So I made sure one thing that was, important to me growing up when I was collecting is to really take care of the cards. So nice cards I get, penny sleeve, top loader, into the storage box. And, we reached a point, stuff was starting to get stored up at my parents' house in their basement. And my mom finally hit her breaking point. She said, look, you got to take these cards or I'm getting rid of them. And she finally just brought them over one weekend, just dumped them in our basement.
How long ago was that?
Probably 6-7 years ago. Didn't even look at them. Hadn't looked at them. They were just there, tucked away for a rainy day or a COVID pandemic. Needless to say, there was much downtime. And I said, hey, you know what? I know I've got those cards in the basement. So I went down, opened up that bin one day and just spent hours going through it. And it brought back a ton of memories. I mean, some of the cards I could remember pulling them out of a pack as a kid. But I started to come through and see, I'd see Derek Jeter rookie, a bunch of Shaq rookies. I'm like, man, I've got something here. And even before the pandemic, I was really starting to reignite my fire for the hobby. You listen to guys like Gary V, and then you just start to learn and immerse yourself in the hobby. Jeff Wilson, sports card investor, a guy I follow a ton, and it really got me excited again. So one thing led to another. I sent a couple cards off for grading. I had to educate myself on that whole process, which is a topic we'll get to later in the show. But, Jeter cards came back, started selling, and so you just start buying, selling, and you meet so many great people along the way, which I think is one of the most fun things about this hobby. And you're just always constantly learning. So that's kind of my story, kind of how I got to where I am today. But you've been doing it much longer than me, and you were part of this hobby before it was kind of the trendy thing to do. So why don't you tell us how you got rolling?
Yeah, it's a great story. I think like how COVID just brought people back into collectibles and sports cards and everything like that. It's cool, and you're a story of that who went hard and heavy at it. So that's awesome, man. And now we're here.
Yeah.
So this is great. With myself, I started collecting when I was 7 years old. Was my first. My uncle bought me a a binder and plastic pages from the old ballpark.
Yep.
Out in Novi back in the day. There's one out in Novi. And
there's one in Canton.
Yep, one out there too. Yep. So we got that and started getting in it. And I was in it, heavy into it. And really my father got me started in it. And he was a huge collector back in the day. But of course, the same old story. Cards ended up at the end of the street and c'est la vie. So, kind of sucks. But because you think about that. But yeah, I went into it. And then when I was about 14 years old, I started setting up at shows with my dad. I had a full table. I had one display case, some boxes set up, stuff like that. And that was in 1989. And never forget the Griffey rookie came out then. And Barry Sanders rookie came out. And the market was really heating up at that time. That was the hot point of the whole market, is when Upper Deck really just took it over the top.
Yep.
And I did that for a good 2 years, setting up at shows every weekend. Or some shows 15, 16 years old. I'm pulling down $2,500 to $3,000 for that weekend. And, I ended up hiring my buddies to run my table while I'm out hustling the show and everything.
You might have been the guy that hustled me at some of these shows.
I possibly could have.
I'll tell you this, one thing that still sticks with me at some of these shows that I've gone to. One, I remember it like it was yesterday. The Livonia Elks Club.
Yes, on Plymouth Road.
Every Sunday.
Yes, I was there.
So I went to this show, and I was after this specific Shaq card. And I'm making the rounds. My dad and I get separated. He's out he's looking for other cards, whatever. And so it's just me. I'm a young kid. I go up to this table. This guy he looks like he's an Elvis impersonator at night. I mean, just the greasiest, slimiest guy that you can imagine. So I go, he's got the card I'm looking for. Total amateur move by me. I go, hey, sir, how much is that Shaq card right there? He goes, how much money do you have? I'm like, $42. $42. Basically handed the guy every dollar I had. I mean, what kind of scumbag does that? But those are the people that were involved. And then, there's still people like that, doing operating like that today. I'd like to think there's certainly more good than bad in the hobby. And there is.
It is. And we're seeing that in the industry right now, I think, when you use the term scumbags, greasy dudes.
Yeah.
What we're seeing right now a lot is flippers.
Yep.
And we're seeing that a lot in the retail market. And what's your view on that right now? And how are you visioning that?
Yeah. So it's, people get into the hobby for all different reasons. And, a lot before the sports card boom took off, there were a lot of people that were into the shoe flipping. Right. And people are still doing that today. The race to get the new release Jordans or LeBrons or the Kyrie Irving shoes and, turn around.
I had the Grant Hill Fila's.
Yeah.
Those are pretty solid.
I had the MTA Pro Buddha Edwards.
That was on the mean streets of South Lyon back in the day with me. So, but
the guys that are in it, to make a quick buck, buy a box of cards for $25-$30 at Walmart or Target and then flip it immediately for 3, 4, 5 times that. That's kind of where we're running into issues on the retail side of the market. Before this thing took off, I could walk into Target or Walmart, with my 2 boys, age 12 and 10, and we could go grab a pack of basketball cards off the shelf and be on our way, come home, open them up. Now it's I don't even bother going in there anymore. Shelf is cleared. But what I do like, that I'm seeing is that some of these stores are taking measures to at least give other people a chance to get some of these cards. So I'll give you an example. Meijer, right here locally in Wixom, Michigan. I happened to be in Meijer the other day, strolled by the card section. Shelf is empty, but there's a sign. It says, "We are now only selling sports cards behind the electronics counter every Friday starting at 3 p.m. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll come back here on Friday and see if I can maybe get a box of basketball cards, which I haven't been able to get in months.
Right.
So pick my son up from school like a responsible dad. And he said, "Hey, Dad, I'm starving. I want to go home and I want to eat." I said, we can get to that. But first thing we got to do is go to Meijer and try to get in line for these sports cards.
As a responsible dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You got to teach the young man
Right.
priorities. So there we go. We hightail it to Meijer, and I'm pull into the parking lot at 2:45. I'm thinking, man, I am going to be golden. I will be at the front of this line picking out optic football, hoops basketball. Walk over to the electronics counter. Line is already 25 deep. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I even had runners out there in Canton. I had my mother-in-law, father-in-law in line in Canton. Same thing, waiting at 25 deep. So by the time, and they limit it, it's like 2 to 3 boxes per customer. By the time we got to the front of the line, all they had left was 2021 Topps baseball. So everyone was there for football, basketball, Pokemon.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Hey, I've been waiting. I'll take 2 blaster boxes of Topps baseball. So that's what we went on with. But so it's
reminded me of the day of Ticketmaster,
yep.
You're in line for Green Day and you're thinking you're going to get front 2 rows and you end up, behind the stage, upper bowl, and it's crazy. And the thing I think it's hurting the most right now when I see it for the retail market, especially in the stores, is the kids.
Yep.
It's one thing we have to keep in the hobby is the kids, and they're not getting their fair shake at it right now. And that's tough. And even going to card shows, it's amazing what the markup is on things. And I just want to see a better job of that. And I don't know how we do that, or how these stores can do that, but just stepping up and making sure maybe a kids section, they have some sort of priority over it where these guys are not getting in line and then it's on eBay in 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's tough to see, and my kids love opening packs more than anybody, and I have zero self-control when it comes to, you put a wax box in front of me, it's like throwing a steak into the lion cage. I will rip that sucker open in seconds. How you guys can tuck these cards away and then save it, oh my God, I'm going to sell this sealed wax in 10 years from now and make a fortune. Not me. I'm ripping that sucker open. Kids are excited to pull a Zion or a Joe Burrow or whoever. They did not have a good time opening up those Topps blasters. They just don't know the baseball players as well. They don't know the baseball rookies. Like everyone knows a Zion or John Morant or Justin Herbert.
And that's the thing right now. We are in spring training right now, and we're really in the heart of it, where you're starting to see these teams line up, and we're seeing a lot of young prospects out there.
Yep.
Personally, myself, watching the Tigers, for instance, our home team, you see the guys like Riley Green, Torkelson. They might not be ripping the ball as they should average-wise, but boy, when they hit it, they hit it foul. There is some pop in those bats.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see. Who are you seeing, besides our own Tigers and maybe around the major leagues? When you talk about rookies or kids are getting in these cards and stuff, what prospects are you seeing right now?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at, you look at the rookie of the year race in both the AL and NL. You've got Randy Arozarena, who is eligible for rookie of the year.
Is he?
This
I didn't
year
know
in
that
the
one
AL.
was.
Yep.
Okay.
Wander Franco, I think, is going to be the odds-on favorite. He's been the number one prospect in baseball for quite some time. So it'll be good to see that guy get a full season. His cards are starting to spike. You've got a couple guys in Baltimore, Adley Rutschman, the catcher who was the number one pick a couple years back. You've got Ryan Mountcastle.
Kalenic over in Seattle.
Kalenic,
too.
Yep. And so Kalenic was a guy who was traded from the Mets to Seattle in the Robinson Cano deal. And that's a guy, they said if they had to do that draft all over again, I think he went 6th in that draft. I think he was drafted out of high school, was the Mets' top prospect. And, Mets sold the farm to get a known steroid user in Cano and gave up some good prospects in doing so.
It tends to happen like that for sure. Like
Yep.
Joe Adell, another guy, where since we're talking American League right now, Joe Adell is something, especially over in Anaheim. Mike Trout's really starting to get some help in that lineup.
Yeah, he needs it.
He has needed it. And Ohtani's taken off. I mean, I know he's not a prospect, but, to see that these guys play out in the card market too and how their prices fluctuate, even with spring training, is pretty cool, I think.
It is. And
the hype's on them.
And fans and card investors react pretty quickly to, to some of these prospects. You take Torkelson, for example. When that Bowman draft set came out, I mean, people were going nuts for Torkelson. It's just, you could have named your price on his, on his Bowman Chrome or his Bowman paper. He's gotten off to a very slow start, and now his card prices have dropped 20% in the last 7 days. So if you're still a believer in Spencer Torkelson, which I certainly am, and obviously all the Detroit Tiger faithful is, now's a good time to buy Spencer Torkelson. Conversely, we talked about Wander Franco. His cards are starting to spike a little bit as the season gets closer. They're starting to say, all right, this number one prospect is ready to show his stuff. But you know what? It's who knows? For every Mike Trout, there's also a Todd Van Poppel and a Brian Taylor that that can flame out. That's why it's so tough to predict. And when we get into our top 5 segment, we'll kind of talk about maybe diversifying your collection with a mixture of what I'd say speculative buys, guys that you're maybe taking a chance on, say, wow, man, I think Spencer Torkelson's going to be a stud for the next 15 years versus a known entity like a Mike Trout or whatever. Bryce Harper may be a bad example.
Yeah, well,
but
it might not be.
Established superstars.
Right. I mean, Harper still might not be. It's when you talk about Torkelson and prices going up and down and things like that. Yep. Bryce Harper's a player where buying low right now and you got a good shot at it.
Yeah.
So
same with Judge,
like you see guys like even Hassan Dominguez from the Yankees. Some people say Jason. I believe it's Hassan, though.
I was curious about that.
Yeah, I've heard Hassan a lot. Yeah, being that. So, but we see a lot especially the hitters are amazing right now. I've never seen
that's where the
really anything like it. I mean, unfortunately with pitching, that does go up and down majorly. And I mean, guys can drop all the way down to nothing.
Yep.
Like right now, Brady Singer's shooting back up again.
Yep.
And he was a down guy, but now people are actually seeing what he has. Knock on wood there.
The guy that bought his parents a house, right? I remember
yes, he did.
That on ESPN,
yeah, it's a great
Florida
kid.
Gator.
Yep.
And he was on the same staff as Faedo, and they had a killer staff at Florida. But yeah, it's but yeah, you just never know.
And the neat thing I'm seeing too of a lot of prospects now is bloodlines. So we're seeing the Bobby Witt
Jr. Yep.
Bobby Witt Jr., Glenn Allen Hill,
yep.
son. Who are some other ones I remember seeing out there? But we're seeing a lot of that where the bloodlines jump in. Who's the Yankees pitcher? I can't remember. He's got
there's Davy Garcia, who's a big prospect for the Yankees. But yeah, Bobby Witt is another one. He just hit a 485-foot home run last week, and immediately his card prices have spiked a ton. But he's a 20-year-old kid, and I don't think the Royals want to take a risk in bringing a guy up that early. And he's a natural shortstop, from what I've heard, but they've been moving him over to second base. So a guy like that, maybe it makes sense to start him out, and he's never had an at bat, an A-ball or double-A, so maybe best to start him there. And guy's got a ton of time. So,
and that's in the industry too. We got to be patient with these prospects, especially if you're going in, investing in them, collecting them. Be patient, because I believe that it will pay off in the end. Absolutely. Not going to pay off every time, but with a lot of these hitters, you're going to see it start paying its dividends down the road.
Yeah. So, when you're thinking about investing in some of these prospects, you're going to hear names we just mentioned, probably 10 to 15 names right on, during this call or during this topic, and, kind of go into it with a strategy. Maybe you like to collect a certain player, or you're into a certain sport. It's, I've made investments and prospects I've felt good about. And for every one of those, I've also, I've told George's story a million times. I bought, 4 or 5 Drew Lock Prism football rookie cards prior to the season starting. I think I paid probably $200 a pop. That card can now be had for probably under $70. So, you're gonna win some, lose some. But you kind of learn as you go. You just got to be smart about it. Do a lot of research and, educate yourself. That's a big thing before you're going to invest in anything, whether it's sports cards or whatever it may be. But yeah, take the time, research the hobby, educate yourself, and invest in what you know.
And I think that's a great thing too, to use that invest word and understanding it. This is a hobby and it's great. We love to see the kids have fun. But like you talked about with your story at the beginning, Pat, taking care of your stuff is so important. And that's what these kids need to do. Like I took care when we talk prospects. Jose leaned, 1988 Topps rookie. I had over 200 of his rookie cards. I thought the guy was going to be awesome. And Kevin Moss.
Yeah, from the
Kevin
Yankees.
Moss was a huge buy for me back in the day.
Moss, number 24.
Oh yeah, and just
big lefty hitter.
Man, never took off though.
Yep.
So I do have some Kevin Moss and Jose Lean rookies. If anybody is looking, you can feel free to contact us.
So the two guys that I can compare similar. I was a big Tim Salmon. Remember Tim Salmon from the Angels, and JT Snow.
Oh,
I had high hopes for both those guys, and again, didn't work out. So that's Salmon won Rookie of the Year, but I don't know. He still had a pretty decent career. But yeah,
could you imagine like what Tim Salmon when he was jacking home runs like that? Like now, he'd be like that Aaron Judge, just fly up in price, and better sell that Salmon quick, man.
I know. Yeah,
because a Trout came after him. That was really a bad joke, but so stupid.
But
yeah. Boy, that wasn't even scripted either.
No,
that was right off the top of my head.
That Salmon was swimming upstream on that
on
that one.
Yeah,
no applause from the audience.
Really, I know. Just man,
tough crowd, packed house tonight.
Yeah, we're social distancing for sure back there. It looks like. All right. So one thing we are seeing when we talk investments and we talk about the whole industry is the grading companies right now.
Yep.
Holy shit. What happened?
Man,
dude, I mean, I got cards sitting there, as everybody with the story. Cards been sitting there 8 months right now. I just put another batch in just before the price increase, a huge batch with Harvbo cards, and we're going to try to get him on sometime in the future here too as a guest. But these prices have just gone out of hand. I shouldn't say that because I don't think it's out of hand. I just think they're trying to control what they have.
I think it's a smart move by PSA. I mean, that was the one thing I really had to educate myself on as I got back into the hobby, is learning the whole grading process, because that's where the value's at. And PSA knows once they slap a 9 or a 10 on one of those cards, that value has gone up significantly. But what was happening is people are sending basically every card in to get graded. You're sending in a $3, Sadiq Bey card to get graded.
I knew a guy like that.
And so now they're trying to make it okay. You can have your Sadiq Bey graded, but it might cost you, close to $150. And now you're going to think twice about sending that card in. So I think it's good. I mean, things I've read, I've heard PSA has a backlog right now of close to 9 million cards. And they're hiring graders. So clearly they had to slow things down. Once they started to tighten up the direct shipments, that's when I started to research some of the bulk submitters like Harvbo cards, like you talked about in Michigan. I haven't researched those guys much, but I worked with PC Sports Cards out in New York. So Josh Cohen, who's the owner of that company, he said he submitted it was 38,000 cards total in 2019. So those are cards that people ship to him for him to prep, and he just sends them all as one big shipment to PSA.
Right.
So he gets preferential pricing, as he should. He said it was a couple weeks ago in 2021, he sent 38,000 cards in 1 week. So 1 week in 2021 was equal to what he did all of 2019. So that just shows you how many people are getting into this hobby. And two, people are sending in anything and everything. So clearly that's an example of how backed up, and he's just one bulk submitter. He's a big one, but just the volume coming in, they can't keep up.
Right.
So they have to have to put some controls on it. Now, is that going to make people look a different direction and go to, BGS? I think they're not in any better
Yeah,
position.
I mean, I printed off some of that on them earlier and stuff. I deal with mostly PSA.
Yep.
My rank goes PSA, BGS, SGC as in respect to the industry that I like with the cards, gradings. They jacked it up too. So, I mean, they're just following suit. They're all in the same situation with that. Up. And I mean, it's just what I see with it, though. In my opinion, though, there's a lot. Once we get kind of going back to the flipper issue again, everybody wants it all at once.
Yeah.
And sometimes, in my opinion, it's just better for PSA to be holding on to those cards right now than me to be holding on to them.
Yep.
Because when I get them, it will pay off. It's just going to take the patience to get them back. But it will be there. I think it's a.
Yeah, and I think the flippers are going to learn that they're not going to have the patience to wait for a card to get graded. That's why they gravitate towards the sealed wax at Target, Walmart. So they're looking to get that, and make a quick buck, either flipping the box or doing a break. But you are going to see new players enter the market. This HSA that has come in. I mean, nice
questionable tactics by them going on right now, I think.
Yeah,
on social media.
If you've looked at some of their slabs too, they've misspelled some of them. I mean, so it's a little sloppy.
And I understand that stuff's going to happen, but what I'm seeing right now are just a bunch of trolls that are saying, "Oh, got these back from what is it, HSA, whatever, HSA," and they're awesome. I've seen this in the market before, and with CSA, it was one of the companies. Back about 20 years ago, and it was the same type of thing. These new players try to get in, but they can't match with PSA. We saw the list of investors who just bought PSA. You tell me those guys are losers and doing the wrong thing.
You've got Kevin Durant, you've got Deshaun Watson, you've got Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets, you've got the Chernin Group, who had acquired Barstool, and Nat Turner. So you've got some big muscle and some big money behind PSA. So which company am I hitching my wagon to as a sports card collector and investor? PSA all day long.
Thank you. I don't care how long the wait is.
Yep.
I'm just going to send it in and wait.
They'll make the appropriate adjustments they understand lead time's an issue, and so they're taking the measures to correct it. And if I'm Kevin Durant and Deshaun Watson, I'm rounding up all of my rookie cards, and I know all of them will get graded as a 10 because they are part owners of the company now. So good for them.
Yeah, I tell you, well, there is one that worries me there, the Golden Auction owners, and that kind of worries me when you have one business and it's working the same, And
yep.
I don't know. That one kind of worries me a little bit on that end of things.
Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely keep an eye on. And what do you think with like Beckett? Like, we're so high on PSA, and I know Beckett's probably right there with you. Like, I think you're pretty much the same with I am about the Beckett and SGC. What's your feeling? SGC's a vintage, I think.
Is a distant third for me. I think
SGC's a good vintage company, though. Yeah. Okay. But with Beckett, what sets them apart from PSA?
I love the subgrades on Beckett. Yep. I think that is sharp. And to also have the opportunity to get a black label. Beckett, it is a nice looking, it's a little bit of a thicker slab.
Is it? I didn't know that too. Okay.
But yeah, I love the subgrades. I mean, it really lets you know, because if I get a card back from PSA and it's a 8 or a 9,
correct.
I don't, I can maybe look at it and say, okay, yeah, maybe the centering is a little, I should have noticed that a little bit better before I sent it. Oh yeah, that corner's a little dinged. With Beckett, there's no question. You can kind of see where you might have fell short, whether it's on the surface, in the corner. So I do like that aspect a lot, and I think you can get some really nice cards right now in a BGS 9.5. For certainly a fraction of the cost of a PSA 10. So, and who's to say Beckett won't be the new leader 10 years from now? We don't know. It doesn't feel like they will, with all the investments going into PSA, but. There is certainly nothing wrong with a BGS lab. I just can't get there on SGC, but
yeah, it's all right.
But maybe I'm not as much into the vintage. I'm a young guy, so I look to my elders. I look to my elders to educate me and just kind of
Kiss the ring, baby.
Tell me how things were back in the day.
Oh, good stuff. I mean, what do you think on when we look at this right now? We're telling people, I mean, my advice is to people is PSA is still, like I said, number one.
Absolutely.
Overall, 100%. Value-wise, where do you see the big difference between maybe educating some of those listeners that aren't into the collectibles so much but want to get into it, like yourself a year ago? Where did you learn from that? I think you're kind of a good person to ask for that too. In
terms of just researching the whole grading process.
Like, what made you realize, like, oh, PSA is it for sure? When you would see a beautiful Beckett case, like 9.5, let's say a Luka, and you're like, wow, that's still a sharp card. It's a mint card, it says.
Yep. I'd certainly research both. And you look at eBay comps as well. And any time somebody refers to a certain card, so Luka being a good example, they always refer to his PSA. PSA 10, Luka PSA 10, Luka PSA 9. Kind of here's where we're at. And then, Beckett would be kind of the, third in line. So as I started researching eBay comps and just kind of looking at what was selling, what was still on the market, just kind of seeing how they were priced, there was a significant premium from a PSA 10 versus a BGS 9.5. So that certainly let me know as somebody that was coming back into the space that, okay, I mean, this is kind of the gold standard of a graded card. This is a PSA 10, and that's what people are buying. So I said, all right, I'm gonna hitch my wagon to PSA, and that's the way to go. And then you go through the whole process of how you prep a card before you send it off to get graded, and so that's probably a topic for another show.
I think so. Yeah, it's a good. I mean, it's something good to talk about.
Yep. But I've been happy with my submissions to PSA, and I'm glad I've started to learn a little bit more about these bulk submission groups like PC Sports Cards. Got Baseball Cards down in Georgia is another good one. And I'm going to check out that Harpo, like you mentioned. So a lot of different ways to get cards submitted, but a lot of those bulk groups now have kind of hit the pause button with the price increases. So I'm thinking, they're trying to figure out how they're going to price their stuff moving forward. So much like you, I'm glad I've got about 4 or 5 orders sitting there waiting to get graded and looking forward to them.
It's like the buddy that owes
back.
You, you always know you're rich. You got something coming to you. You could be broke that day, but hey, Pat owes me $20.
Right.
Hey, your producer has a question for you.
Oh, great.
Yes, producer Rich.
So you're talking about subgrading. So does Beckett, they provide you a checklist of why your card didn't grade out the way that you intended it to?
Well, what it is, it's going to show you edges, centering, corners, and surface. And it's going to give a grade on each one of those from the 0 to 1 to 10, I should say, standard of grading. And then that averages out the 4, and then that's your grade, overall grade of the card.
Okay. So what that does would that prep you for the next time you go to send cards out to get graded? Like before you box them up and ship them out, like you were talking about the 38,000 in 1 month, just going to your Target store, picking up them, throwing them in a box and sending them off to PSA.
There's definitely a prepping process that needs to happen.
So it's more of an educational tool for the people who are trying to get cards graded. So when it comes back,
it is.
They
so
can
they know
say,
what
well,
it
you
was
can
at.
look,
Like what they saw maybe and stuff like that. Because and Pat mentioned that earlier, when he gets an order, when we get an order back from PSA, you see it and it gets a 9, not a 10. Why? We don't know. Now
it's very subjective, and maybe Johnny in the cubicle over might grade that same card a 10. So that's the challenge of grading.
Yep, exactly. You always run into a Russian judge with that too.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate you. All right. So, I mean, one thing we're going to do here each week, and I don't know how we're going to do this each week. I'm going to say that right now. We're going to try our best. And, but in the future here, every show, I think it would be cool to have like a top 5 list. Maybe we'll get really crazy and get in a top 10.
Oh, man.
But wow.
Till midnight.
I know that'd be wild, wouldn't it? So this week, we're going to kind of keep it simple here. And top 5 players to invest in. And when I mean players, you can talk about an individual card with that player or not. And Pat, what do you have for your top 5 right now?
I would say, and this is in no particular order, so you guys probably recall.
I'll be writing these down.
30 30 to 60 days ago, you saw a huge run on a lot of the quote unquote legends. The Ken Griffey Jr.'s and then Barry Sanders. So you had to know that there was going to be a reset of that. I mean, it was just out of control what some of these things were going for. So now you kind of revisit it. You look at a Barry Sanders 89 score rookie in a PSA 8, 9, 10. All three in those grades are down 35+% over the last 30 days. So starting to see a little bit of a reset. Same with Jerry Rice. So you look at Jerry Rice, his 1986 Topps rookie card. Again, down 30%, a PSA 7 through 9. Ken Griffey Jr., 89. So you look at his 1989 rookies. So 89 upper deck he's down 17% and a PSA 9. His 89 Fleer down 25%. So, those are three, legends that people were buying heavily during the time where there was a huge run on players like that. I'm guilty as charged. I bought up some Hakeem Olajuwon rookie cards, some Barkley rookies, and those have dropped in value since I bought them. So, but I'd still like those to hold their value for the long term. My last two guys, Trey Young is a guy I think people are neglecting a little bit. Obviously his team is not great, but I think he is, one of the best scorers in the NBA, certainly one of the top shooters around. Hasn't had the best season, but the guy has a world of talent. But you look at his 2018 Prism, down 15% over the last 30 days, and his Optic base down 25% over the last 30 days. So that's a guy I'd keep an eye on. And last, and certainly not least, my boy LeBron James is a guy that I think is way, way, way undervalued. You look at where Michael Jordan cards are priced right now, and LeBron still has, quite a few years left in the tank, and he's going to be a guy that will be relevant for many, many, many years when basketball is over. So I think we've only scratched the surface on his cards. So he's a guy I've been trying to buy quite a bit of. But again, the last 30 days, his cards are down 13 to 15%. And, you don't have to buy all these cards in a PSA 9, 10. I've got a couple LeBron PSA 8s. I mean, just look at the Jordan 86 Fleer. What his prices on a PSA 5, 6, 7. I mean, they're absurd. And I think LeBron is going to be in that same category when it's all said and done. So if you're patient and you're willing to hold LeBron, I mean, people are sleeping on the Lakers right now because Anthony Davis is hurt. Utah's on a nice run. But I tell you what, when the smoke clears at the end of the year, I bet LeBron is hoisting another trophy. So keep an eye on LeBron's cards. I'd be looking to pick some of those up.
Now, let me ask you about LeBron too, before I get over to my top 5. Like, I didn't know what your list was ahead of time and things like that. Being a LeBron collector, why do you think his cards are not there? Is it like a social, political view of him? Is it just the way it is nowadays for the NBA, for the fan base? I'm just kind of wondering why he hasn't took off as being an MVP after MVP. When I've seen Steph Curry do it in the past, Steph Curry stuff flies up when he's won MVPs.
Yep.
Giannis, another guy that's just been off the charts.
Yeah.
What separates LeBron from the other superstars in the card industry?
Yeah, and I think LeBron is he can be a polarizing personality to an extent. He's certainly not afraid to speak his mind. I certainly don't fault him for that. But man, you look at what the guy does on the basketball court. He is an absolute beast.
Yeah, I mean,
and many times when players like this retire, they're going to appreciate LeBron way more when he's gone than maybe they do today. And I know he's hanging around to try to play with his son,
right,
to when his son gets to the NBA, and who knows how many more titles he'll have. I mean, if him and AD stay together for a while, I think he's going to get quite a few. So he's certainly not done winning titles. So I'm hitching my wagon to LeBron, winning where it makes sense. So, but two guys that I wanted to throw this in there too.
Yeah,
A guy that I always see hyped up before every baseball season in the card market is Shohei Ohtani. Every year. His cards go through the roof right before the season starts. Like, oh, this is the year. He's going to pitch. He's going to hit. He's going to play everywhere. By May, he's going to be on the DL with elbow issues. It happens every year. And the other guy is LaMelo Ball. I love LaMelo Ball. I think he's a great player. But look at the prices of what his hoops PSA 10. If somebody must have paid through the nose just to
really
get
that
graded. They're selling. There's a couple selling for over $1,000. And to put that in perspective, Luka's PSA 10 hoops rookie is at about $350. So you're telling me a LaMelo Ball hoops rookie is going to sell for 4 times what a Luka rookie? Right. I mean, it's absurd. So I just had to get that off my chest.
Well, I see that. I see that a lot in football cards too, and I got a couple football guys on my list.
It's because the big baller brand is that why it's worth so much?
Well, hey, never lost.
I got my big baller shoes on. You guys just can't see
never lost.
You couldn't find your shoes after the fireball night.
Wow. Who invited these guys? The big faller. The big faller. That's great.
Faller brand.
But talk about your elders later,
Yeah.
We'll
help you out. We have a handicap exit.
When LeBron, he'd play the bad boys, his ass would be on the floor.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'll tell you that right now. And the league has changed a lot.
It has. Softened up.
And I'm kind of going LeVar Ball here maybe a little bit myself, but his ass would be on the floor.
So are you trying to tell me Bill Lambier's in your top 5?
He should be.
Yeah.
We'll get to those lists later, buddy.
Let's invest in Bill Lambier rookie cards.
It's not bad. Not a bad idea. Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. All right. What I have a list on is interesting when we talk about football. It's getting on that football too. My ADD threw me off there a little bit. So you see guys pop up right now like Justin Jefferson and things like that. My advice to those collectors out there, it's great to collect those guys, have fun with them, but don't think of them as a serious investment. There's only one wide receiver card who has value, and that's Jerry Rice.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Johnson, he's starting to come back up since he's making a haul now. A little bit, but it's never been there.
I thought it'd be more of a spike.
Everybody thought, and it never was.
No.
Running back, same thing.
Yep.
You have to be the top premium over time to be able to get there.
Agreed.
If you're investing, go quarterback.
Yep.
That's it. Go with the gunslingers. And that's right where I have number 1, Justin Herbert right now. And my advice to people, and we talked about this, and I have another player on there also, buy the ungraded right now.
Yep. Stock
up on the ungraded, hold them, send them off to PSA. That's fine, but don't buy them graded right now because you're going to be paying right through the nose on it. And it can be like a Joe Burrow situation. And Joe Burrow's got all the talent in the world. That's one player I would buy also.
Mm-hmm.
But a player like Herbert, I haven't seen a guy like this in a long time. So he's a player I would just buy the ungraded stuff.
Which is considered, it's called raw. So it's a
Correct.
Raw card, if the industry slang. So if you're looking on eBay, that would be considered a raw card.
Yes.
Love Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I love Joe Burrow. You look at a second player. Now we get back to more consistency in an investment, kind of like when you talked about a balance, just saying no difference in balancing your portfolio, all that kind of stuff. Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe's one of those ones. He's kind of fluctuating. Things will go up and down. Trust me. We kind of got for the 30 for 30 episodes, which kind of blew up the card market and all that and all the documentaries, whether it's through HBO or whatever else. You're going to see something on Kobe over the next year to two for sure.
Without question.
And that's going to continue to go. And, that's why I always say Kobe is a great investment. First, second-year cards are big.
I think you make a great point there on second-year cards.
Second-year cards are very undervalued, and people don't put enough time and effort into it. They see the rookie, and everybody ignores that second year, and that second year is a huge card later on.
Kobe's 1997 cards have been on fire.
Yep.
That's a great point.
And this one's painful for me to say, Pat, but having a collection of a Michigan backup quarterback is always good too. So Tom Brady.
Oh, jeez.
So he's probably one of the greatest backup quarterbacks ever, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he really was. Yeah, so that's kind of got personal there.
Do you
Here
guys-
comes Jasper.
Do you guys think that if he just retired, his cards would go up more?
I think they will
do.
eventually. He's just so hot right now. It just
I just want him to retire because I want him to retire.
wow.
I've said it since episode 1 of the Easy Speak podcast.
Well, Gronk signed again, so
I know.
Yeah, the band's
They're back at it
together
again.
for
I
know,
at least
I'm not-
one more year.
right.
I'm not happy about that, but
Avocado ice cream
Cucu-
all around.
cucumber ice cream.
Cucumber,
There you
Cucumber
go.
ice cream, yes.
Yeah.
Avocado ice cream. Ugh.
Yeah,
I mean, cucumber is pretty gross too. But you ever drink cucumber water?
cucumber sorbet.
You ever had cucumber water where they say it
Yeah.
helped for hangovers? Which I probably
Is
should
that
have had
what-
on mutton. I should have, but I
instead of
didn't.
Iced tea. That's usually.
Oh, it's brutal though. It's so gross. All right, 4. Once again,
Oh
raw.
man!
I put them on there. LaMelo Ball.
Oh my!
I see the
He
kid.
is wearing
hey,
a big baller brain.
Let's not buy the PSA 10s right now.
No,
Let's
that's
buy it raw, stack them up.
I would support that.
Thank you. Stack them up and just see where we go with
Rack
that.
them
with
and
it.
stack them.
So there's your young player right there, like a Justin Herbert. And number 5 right now, I got a guy I'm going to let you guys know, Willie Mays. Willie Mays is one of our few living legends. And I'm talking historical living legends left in the Major League Baseball. And I hate to play the death card there, but when it happens, like Hank Aaron, the stuff flew. They finally went up in price.
But now the 4 Horsemen page, you put a 7-day
Oh,
ban.
you have to, yeah, there's right,
Gotta
exactly.
be respectful.
Exactly. But after those 7 days, those cards are still going up. Okay. So no, seriously.
Body's not even cold yet, and George is unloading his Willie Mays collection.
No, I'm buying. I want to buy right now.
Right.
Right. I'll unload it later on that 8th day. All right. No, Willie.
Are we talking Willie Mays Hayes or are we talking Willie Mays?
No, we're talking Willie Mays. Say, hey, kid.
Oh no, I thought it was Willie Mays Hayes.
Not Willie Mays Hayes.
Oh, okay.
Not where you going, 90 feet. Not that guy. All right. But Willie Mays, I think, is one of those players that we're seeing it a lot in the vintage market, which I'm a lot stronger and I believe than you are with it. But we're starting to see that growth with it.
That?
It is. I kind
It's
of
because he's older than you.
Power play. Hey, he's an older guy.
Right.
An older guy. He's
Right.
familiar with the old cards, which is what we'd expect.
Right.
I can teach him about the young guys. When he's yelling at kids to get off his lawn, say, George, be nicer to the young kids. Let's talk about some of these new cards. These shiny silver.
He
prism.
really wanted that Honus Wagner card
Yep.
on the intro because
Ooh, I did like that.
he peeled it from a back of a tobacco.
Yeah, reminded
package.
him of his first grade when he was in first grade. He had a
Exactly.
Honus Wagner card.
Are you done?
I think so. Is this thing on? Hello? Is this
Great
thing
bit
on?
you got
Is this
going on
thing on?
there. You guys plan that one there? Huh?
No.
Huh.
Ad lib.
A clown, you're funny. All right. I tell you what a great show for a first show. And I kind of want to talk about real quick before we get to closing and with Pat and myself here, what are to expect us in future podcasts and what our goal is with this. We want to continually do entertain in the market, let people know where the industry is, what's new in the industry. We can't do this ourselves. So please feel free to comment and let us know if you have a question for future topics on the show, or if you'd like for us to answer a question for you, more than happy to do that. We almost would prefer, if you want to just answer an email, we will, but we will answer it live for you also and do that. We're going to be bringing in some great guests here in the industry and kind of got a surprise here for you. This one, our first guest, he's going to be the founder of the Tigers page, Detroit Tigers memorabilia and collectibles page, Bill Welch. And we're going to get Bill on. It's probably going to be via Zoom or phone or something like that, but Bill's going to join us and we're going to pick the brains of other people in this industry and hobby because we don't know it all by any means. And we want to learn more from others. And I think it's so great. There's so many people in this industry, whether it could be in the collectibles, the framing industry, all that kind of stuff. And there's
local card shop owners.
Yeah, a lot of different avenues we want to play on that. So, and I'd really like to kind of see we want to really give back to the kids too. And we're going to be finding a way to get involved with our local little leagues here and getting a chance to let them be involved in this, giving away cards and things like that. So
is that when you drive around in your white van with no windows and throw packs of cards out at the elementary schools?
It's blue, by the way.
Blue.
Blue. Sorry. Yeah.
I was thinking of the
Right.
OJ.
The white one was the old one.
OJ. I was thinking of the OJ van.
Right. The blue's better because the tint kind of blends with the blue. So it kind of all
the
good
blue one
together.
is for the cards. The red van is for the free candy.
Yes,
That's right. You've seen
The
that
candy
online.
van.
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
But I think it's going to be a great thing. We're going to be doing this. And I'm so happy you're joining me, Pat, on this.
It's
And
going to be a ton of fun.
what do you got to say for kind of the future of our show here as we move forward?
Yeah, no, we just want to have a ton of fun with it. And yeah, like you said, give back to the hobby and learn from each other. Hopefully we can help some collectors out there, and we'd love for others in the space to help us, with questions, comments, guests. So, man, I can't wait. It's going to be a ton of fun, and gosh, so many great things happening in the hobby, and there'll be a lot to talk about all the time. So thank you guys for hanging in there with us, and hopefully we can keep this thing rolling for a long time.
We'll keep improving at this too, we promise.
That's right. That's right.
So for Coach Pat, this is George Jackson, and thank you again, everybody. We appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.